World athletes ban transgender women from competing in female world ranking events. It's finally happened. You know what? I'm pretty stoked about this, and I know me even just saying that has probably offended quite a lot of people. How could a Blaze say something like that? What is wrong with you? Look, guys, we actually mentioned this in a previous video pretty recently. Actually, I was making the argument that it's just not fair whatsoever, and guys, it's really not. We have categories and weight classes for a reason. We don't really tend to mix and match that like a Cards Against Humanity game or something. Well, the World Athletes Organization has said at the end of this month, it will no longer be possible for a transgender woman to compete with other females. Some people are pretty upset by that, but I gotta say, I feel like the majority of the people where I've been watching videos on this or seeing articles completely agree, which is actually kind of just refreshing. It's almost like the world is starting to get a little bit of common sense back, which is kind of refreshing to see. I mean, honestly, about time. We've had a lot of transgender women competing against other women, and it just has never been fair from the get-go. I'm kind of surprised it's taken this long, but I know some people are going to be angry about that. Guys, there's people angry about absolutely everything these days. But to further my point, I'll just put up some screenshots right now on today's video, and I'll show you what I'm kind of talking about. Look, even looking at these images right here, bro, it almost looks like a different breed of person. You know what I mean? Like, this doesn't even seem fair. The fact that we even got into this entanglement in the first place is really beyond me. Even with the one we were talking about with this cyclist right here, I'm pretty sure it was in Canada. The guy wasn't actually that great of a cyclist, but then he transitioned into a woman. And what would you know, guys? He then won. But you got to remember, like they say, the hormone blockers have basically evened it out, even though he won. And I'm pretty sure he set a world record as well. I mean, there was enough proof. They made a documentary, and the amount of times where he had to fall back on the argument of hormone blockers. Oh no, they work. On paper, I have the same testosterone as any woman now. So we're basically equal. Look, there has to be something there. Going through puberty as a guy and having those muscles build up from that age, even if you then were to transition later on, bro, like, surely that in itself has to give you an upper advantage. There's also actually a bunch of really creepy stories even on this one with them being in the changer rooms after and making everyone else feel pretty uncomfortable, but I think that's just a whole different thing in itself. I didn't even know there was a UFC example. I know I mentioned that in one of my previous videos recently. I said, if this was to happen in the UFC, this would go horribly wrong. And what do you know? I read the comments. You guys said that this actually had happened, and the woman got her head caved in. Like, okay, well, I'm really not that surprised. I'm surprised it took place in the first place, but to hear that was the outcome, yeah, Jesus Christ, man. Like, really? Who okayed that? Jeez, man. There was even this running athlete as well that I saw pretty recently. And just look at this picture here. This was the best one I could find. I saw other ones where they actually took pictures and they barely even fit into the same frame. Transgender woman is like so far ahead of any of the other women athletes that they're not even in the same frame. Kind of hard to see the field of depth in this picture, but even from this picture, you can kind of have a little bit of an understanding that on what's going on. I think they were ranked like 54th in the division before, and then they transitioned into a woman. And not only are they now number one, they're like setting world records. They're like the best women athlete that's ever existed. Really, like, where's the common sense here? This has to be a massive win for women as well, all around the world. I think even trying to compete with transgender women must be absolutely terrifying in certain scenarios, those being fighting examples. Also, you know, just even for everyday sports, especially for the Olympics as well. Imagine working your absolute arse off, then you go up against someone that basically just has cheats, right? Completely unfair disadvantage. And I felt quite bad. You know what I mean? Like, that has to be so disheartening to see. But despite that, I mean, they all played game, literally. I mean, look at the cycle one. They're all smiling and happy, but I'm sure deep down they were not best pleased. Anyway, World Athlete Organization came out with this video yesterday, and I wanted to watch it with you guys. Let's see what they said.
The council has agreed to exclude male to female transgender athletes who have been through male puberty from female world ranking competitions from March the 31st this year. However, in order to do further research into our transgender eligibility guidelines, we will be establishing a working group whose remit will be to consult specifically with transgender athletes to seek views on competing in athletics, to review and maybe commission additional research where there is currently limited research and to put forward recommendations to Council.
And honestly, I feel like that's the best outcome ever. They're not only saying, no, never ever gonna happen absolutely ever again. I guess they've just seen it from the outlook of what's going on recently and just having to put it on hold because it has been completely unfair. I mean, guys, even from the images I'm watching, it looks unfair, let alone actually watching the sport take place. But despite all of that, they're doing more research to see what actually happens. And honestly, I feel like for both ways, that actually works out pretty well. They might find that they're in between the middle. Sure, once you transition, you're then not as strong as males, but then you're way too strong for females. And in that case, having a whole category dedicated for transgender people, I think would be the best outcome ever. People would want to watch that because people love this type of stuff, right? You're not going to get anyone hurt. We're not being stupid about it. It's all very well trying not to step on anyone's toes and offend anyone, but if someone's head gets caved in, bro, that's all very well. But if that happens, like, that's not fair.
The working group will include an independent chair, up to 3 council members, 2 athletes from the Athletes Commission, a transgender athlete from athletics, 3 representatives of our member federations, and representatives of the World Athletics Health and Science Department. The majority of those consulted stated that transgender athletes should not be competing in the female category. Many believe there is insufficient evidence that trans women do not retain advantage over biological women, and more evidence than any physical advantages have been ameliorated before they are willing to consider an option for inclusion into the female category. Where the science is insufficient to justify maintaining testosterone suppression for transgender athletes, the Council agreed it must be guided by our overarching principle, which is to protect the female category.
Probably is what a lot of women are doing around the world. Just a massive sigh of relief. Look, I'm just saying, guys, if you were going to do a weight competition, the next thing you know, you're up against someone called Tinkerbell here who looks like this, like, I'd be pretty terrified. Like, what? That's not fair. Again, the same reason why they have, like, you know, weight divisions. You wouldn't have Conor McGregor against, was it Francis something, who that was a really big guy for the UFC. Could you imagine watching that? Like Conor McGregor against the Mountain video. I don't know if anyone's seen that, bro, but yeah, sure. That would be entertaining. Look, guys, I'm not saying that wouldn't be entertaining, but would that be morally right? No. Honestly, pretty happy with this whole entire outcome, and I'd be kind of weird to see people not being happy with this. Some people will probably see this as like a weird, twisted way that they're trying to get rid of transgender people entirely, and it's, oh, absolutely hateful. I think they're just being, more than anything, smart about things and trying to keep it safe and fair for everybody. But nonetheless, a really interesting topic. I saw this come out, and I feel like this fits perfectly with this channel. You guys are super interested in this kind of stuff. Really curious to see what you guys think. Let me know what your opinion is in the comments down below. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in tomorrow's video. Bye-bye.